Crystal Blackwell of Crystal Clear Moments, a podcast where we talk to people about their crystal clear moments. Today, I have a special guest, Dr. Will. He's going to walk us through his crystal clear moments. But it's interesting because this is the first time you and I have met, and I immediately thought I've met you before. You have that phase, that energy that people know you. Do you get that often, or you're just a likable guy?
I hope so. I hope I'm the guy next door, right? That anybody feels approachable to.
Yeah, that's good though. I like that. That's a good, and that lends well to your background, which I'm going to read his bio because I think it's pretty fascinating. First of all, Dr. Will is a military veteran, which, we all honor that. My dad was a Marine, and I have my nephew is a Marine. So anyone in the military, I respect because, you kept us free. You're buying into this, our liberty and our justice for all. So I really appreciate your work in that piece. And we'll talk a little bit about some moments and crystal clear moments in the military space. But he turned into a serial entrepreneur, which you probably were always an entrepreneur. I find that people who are entrepreneurs have had that spirit forever. I get that. And you just got to eventually do it. It was probably showed up inside of you years ago.
Yeah, I can remember probably third grade, Caldwell Elementary, and we'll talk about that.
I love it. See, I knew it.
Clear moment.
See, I knew it. I knew that. I can't wait to get there. But I want to talk about, as I was reading your bio, the things I was fascinated with, the founder of several successful companies, traveled the world, impact, inspire, influence leaders at all levels. So, helping leaders lead their organizations is important to you. Professional speaker, business coach. I think when I read, your bio, you gave me some detail that every year for the last at least 8 or 9 years, you've gotten some award, which I think is phenomenal. I'm trying to get there. I get it. It motivates you, and I saw that in different types, diversity leader and Titan Award, just different, executive coach awards, just very diverse in terms of your accolades, which is rare. Usually people get accolades in the same lane, but you're pretty much all over this. You're multifaceted.
Yeah, very blessed, very blessed.
Very nice, very nice. Love hearing that. Respected, global leader. Okay, now we need to talk about these 50 books. I am trying to get the one out. And you have 50. So I think I'm going to make you I'm going to probably be your mentee. But that is phenomenal that you knew that you had that inside of you. You had, so I think I want to start here with, what was your crystal clear moment for you in terms of getting that first book out? And what was that?
Yeah, so my very, very first book was a book entitled Debt Release. And not in my bio, but I used to be a pastor. So I was a pastor for 8 years, and I would always talk about financial empowerment, and people would always come up to me after service and want to talk more about it. And so I said, okay, I need a way that I could share this information where it didn't require me talking one-on-one so much, and investing a lot of hours. And so I wrote the first book, Debt Release, and from there, I said, you know what? I've had some other experiences that people may be able to glean from, profit from. And so for me, it's just been an extension of who I am and what I do. And so whenever I come across information via my life or experiences, I think it could help somebody, I write a book about it.
I love that. I love that. So you were servant at heart.
Yeah.
So you seek to help others with information based on the knowledge that you receive.
Yeah, I'm a teacher. That's what my gifting is. That's what I call my genius potential. I wrote a book called Genius Potential, and my gifting is teaching and having the ability to take complex ideas and simplify them and kind of spoon feed them to people in a way that they can consume them in an easy way.
When did you know you had that gift? When did that come to realization for you?
So it's always been there. Even in my book, Genius Potential, I explain that your genius is in you and it's probably been in you for a long time. The sad thing is, Crystal, is many of us, that genius gets suppressed because we start off in our educational system. And in the educational system, if you're not good in mathematics, if you're not good in biology, if you're not good in music, arts, if you're not good in sports, for me, I'm a speaker, I'm a teacher. So that's not what I call an external genius that everybody sees. And they say, oh, you're going to be a speaker. Oh, you're going to be a teacher. So I went through years and years of stumbling through the educational system, trying to find myself, trying to find my genius. And when I finally landed on it and realized this is what I was supposed to be doing, communicating to people, talking to people, teaching people, I went back all the way to when I was a little kid. My mom told me, you know what you used to do when you was a little boy? Whenever we would come home from church, you would go out in the backyard and you would mimic the preacher. You would have your air microphone and you would just be mimicking, and we would just laugh at you and laugh at you. But literally that was my training. That was my training zone. But nobody identified it as a genius. So nobody said, oh, you're going to be a communicator. Oh, you're going to be a motivational speaker. Oh, you're going to be, because that terminology wasn't even out back then, you know, motivational speaker and things like that. So for the most part, you know, they would say, oh, you're going to be a little preacher. You're going to be grandma's little preacher boy. But it's always been, communication has always been, I was the one doing the Easter speeches. I would love to do the long speeches. Everybody else is crying to do it, but it was easy for me.
Yeah, I see that. And what I love is how you're sharing the story, how our gifts show up when we're small. I mean, they're in us when we're born.
They're in us
actually
when we're born.
And it's about your environment watering that seed that's inside of us. And like you said, in our generation, a lot of what we do, very similar roles that you and I have, there really wasn't, you know, language for our parents. So it was basic stuff.
Teacher, lawyer, doctor.
Right, absolutely.
That was it.
I remember playing school, you know, a lot because I wanted to be the teacher, but it's because really
you're a teacher.
I'm a teacher, but I didn't want to, definitely when Dr. Well was not trying to go into high schools and elementary schools, not at all. But that was always in me, and it kind of showed up. So when you talk about your crystal clear moments, and we're, you know, dive into your genius, which is really the core of who you are, which made this empire that you have as a motivational speaker, as an author, as a business coach, you know, as a leader, a global leader. Really, you're a teacher, right? You know, you're a teacher at heart. So what was, and entering let's go into like your high school, maybe college years, military years. How was that gift? You know, how did that show up? And what was a crystal clear moment that you said, you know, I need to start changing and leaning in that direction?
Yeah. So once again, as I said earlier, it had always been there, but it was there with no guidance. It was there with no understanding of what it was. And so I was always in my neighborhood pegged as, my nickname was Wiz, and they called me the Wiz Kid. And so I was always pegged as that, okay, he's hanging out with us, but he's not like us, right? He's hanging out with us, but he's not like us, right? But unfortunately, I was raised in Compton, California, at a time where Compton was said to be the worst city in America. It was riddled with drugs. It was riddled with gangs. Although living with my grandmother on the inside, I was getting all the, you know, love, all the attention I could get. But when I stepped outside, it was so polarizing, right? The examples that were on the outside were so polarizing. So I found myself getting in trouble, stayed in trouble for a long period of time until I had a crystal clear moment. I'm 18 years old. I'm standing in front of a judge, and he says, Mr. Moreland, you're going nowhere fast. You're headed nowhere fast. What are you going to do with your life? And I didn't have an answer for him. I had this blank stare on my face, and I just looked at him, and he says, this is what I'm going to do for you. He says, I'm going to let you leave my court, and I want you to come back in 2 weeks and tell me, why shouldn't I put you in one of our nice facilities here in California, AKA jail? And I remember leaving that courtroom saying to myself, well, I'm headed to jail, so I might as well party for 2 weeks because I'm getting ready to go on a nice little vacation. And as it would have it, God's grace, 2 days before I'm to return to court, I'm walking in the mall, aimlessly walking around, and a gentleman by the name of Corey Oliver walks up to me, and he looks at me and he says, excuse me. And I look at him, and he says, "Have you ever thought about going into the Army?" Now, I got to tell you, Crystal, at this time, I had never thought about it. Kids in my neighborhood, we didn't go to the Army, right? It was spoken against.
Yeah.
So,
And I get that. That's not something that was encouraged. Right. It's not. Yeah.
But I remember looking at Corey, and we talk about moments. We talk about Crystal moments. In that moment, I have the judge in the back of my mind. I know I got to go see him in two days. And I say to myself, he would go for this. He would go for me going to the Army. So I look at Corey and I say, yeah, come on, let's go. And I'll never forget this. Corey looked at me. He was so stunned because later on he shared with me, he says, man, I've been walking in this mall for 2 years and I've never put nobody in the Army. No one's ever joined.
So he was a recruiter.
He was a recruiter.
Okay.
He was a recruiter.
Wow.
And I remember getting in the car with Corey. We go down to the recruiting station, and everybody in the recruiting station is celebrating. They're going crazy because, once again, guys my age in that situation don't go. And so now the big thing is, okay, put his name in the system. Let's see if he can clear to get into the military. They put my name in the system. And 2 years prior, an Army recruiter had came to my high school, and they were testing the ASVAB. And the thing was, if you took the ASVAB test that day, you could have the rest of the day off of school. I forgot all about this moment. But 2 years earlier, I took that ASVAB because I wanted to get out of school. And so he puts my name in the system, and he says, wait a minute, you've already taken this test.
And you had forgotten all about it.
I had forgot all about it.
Right.
And I say, oh, man, I was playing around, man. I don't know what I was writing down, man, that day. He's like, well, whatever you did, you scored high. So we're not going to let you retake the test because if you retake the test and you score lower, we got to keep your last test. But I'm like, no, man, I was playing around. You know, he's like, no, you scored good. We're going to keep you there. And so I sign up for the military. I go home. I tell my mom, I say, Mom, I'm going to the Army. She thinks I'm crazy. She's telling all the men at the church, please talk some sense into his head. But when we talk about, once again, these moments, I just knew that this was going to be a life-changing moment for me. It was going to be a pivotal moment for me. 2 days later, I go to the courtroom. I talk to the judge. Corey's there with me. He tells the judge, yes, he has signed up for the Army. The judge looks at me and says, Mr. Moreland, I think you've made a wonderful choice. I wish you well. And he let me out that court. 2 months later, I'm on my first plane ever. I'm leaving the state of California for the very first time. I get to Kentucky. Fort Knox is where I did my initial training. And so this was for a kid that had never been more than 20 miles outside of Compton. This was huge. This was the first time I'm on a plane, first time I'm leaving home, first time I'm leaving California, first time I'm in a brand new state. And it was a bit overwhelming. And then I eventually get stationed in Germany. So you can imagine, first 18 years of my life, I go nowhere. And within 2-3 months, I'm literally in a brand new country. And this is what I always say when I share this story. I was in a new place physically, but my mind was still in an old place.
Absolutely. Yes. Right.
Physically, I was in Germany.
Yes.
But my mind was still in Compton, California.
Were you aware of that?
I wasn't aware of it as I'm talking about it now, but as I look back, my actions told that story. And thankfully, once again, we talk about, these clear moments. I'm 2 months being in Germany. I'm literally getting ready to get kicked out of the Army because I'm handling issues and situations like I'm back on the block.
Yeah, mindset is a powerful thing.
It
is, you know.
And so I'll give you this quick one. In Compton, where I grew up, this phrase right here, I heard it maybe 2,000 times. Where are you from? And that phrase in California, in Compton, the person's asking you, what gang are you from?
Right. Your affiliation.
What affiliation?
Right. Oh, yeah.
When I'm in the military, that same question is asked, but people were asking me, where are you from? Because people in the Army are from all around the United States. So they're from Texas, they're from Orlando, they're from Florida.
It was foreign for you.
It was foreign for me.
You couldn't.
So when somebody in the military asked me, where you from?
Right.
I'm thinking they're asking me what gang I'm affiliated
Absolutely.
with.
Right. Right.
And they're like, no, man.
That was a question being asked
That was the
for
question.
18 years of your
18 years.
life. And
But
that question made sense to you.
But they were asking me,
Right.
no, I'm from Florida. Where are you from? I'm from New York. Where are you from? And so when in California, when someone would look at you, the response would be, what you looking at? And so in the military, you have all these people who are coming from all different places who had never seen somebody from California, who'd never seen somebody. So that's what they're doing. So as they're looking at me, I'm saying, what you looking at? And so now I'm getting aggressive. They're getting aggressive. And so we get into fights, and I end up in this real bad fight. And I'm getting ready to get kicked out. But then I have another crystal clear moment where Command Sergeant Major Babs, he says, Moreland, similar to the judge, he says, if I kick you out this Army, I read your packet. I read your packet. You're from Compton. I know what go down in Compton. If I send you back there, how long do you think it's going to take before you're dead or in jail?
Dead or in jail, right. Dead or in jail.
He says, this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm not going to kick you out, but I'm going to let you come work directly for me. So you said earlier, you said mindset. The other thing that I now had going for me, I now had a mentor.
Mentor, yes. Dr. Will, people don't get the importance of having a mentor.
It was crucial.
At all levels.
At all levels.
Like even now, at all levels of life,
and
to have a mentor.
He became my mentor, and he asked me a pivotal question. He says, Will, he says, Moreland, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I bet you never thought about that.
Never thought about it, because everybody had told me by the time you're 18, you'll either be dead or you'll be in jail. So I had never thought long term. I had never thought about vision or anything like that. But Command Sergeant Major Babb says, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, Sergeant Major, I don't know. He says, I want you to go home this weekend. This was on a Friday. He says, I want you to go home this weekend. On Monday morning, I want you to tell me, where do you see yourself? I go home over the weekend. I'm racking my brain back and forth. Where do I see myself? Where do I see myself? On Monday morning, I'm back in this office. He says, what you got for me, Moreland? I said, 2 things, Sergeant Major. Number 1, I want to be the best soldier I can be. Number 2, I want to get back into school. He says, Moreland, I can help you do those 2 things if you're serious. I said, Sergeant Major, I'm serious. He calls in another sergeant, and he says, I want you to start mentoring Moreland. He wants to be one of the best soldiers in our command, and he wants to get in college. I want you to help him get enrolled in college. This was Sergeant Sane. He becomes my mentor. He gets me into college, and I get into college. One of my first classes is a speech class. Take speech 101. I'm in this class. A lady by the name of Gloria Copeland. She comes to me after about the 3rd class, and she says, you know what, Will? We all struggle doing this, and we all get nervous and get scared every time the teacher gives us an assignment, but every time you come in here and knock it out the park. She hands me this book. She says, I want to give you this book. And she says, the good thing about this book, you can read it over and over and over. The name of the book was called Affirmations for African American Success by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. I start reading this book. This is probably the first book I've ever read outside of a school textbook. I start reading this book, and inside this book, it's talking about all these wonderful African Americans that were successful. John Johnson, Earl Graves, right? All these amazing individuals, Reginald F. Lewis, just all these amazing individuals that were doing amazing things that I had never come across in my life. And now I'm fascinated, but I'm also upset because I'm like, why haven't I ever heard of these people? Why don't I know? I'm 19 years old and I've never heard of these people.
And that's an awakening, just that.
Just that.
That is an awakening to the deficit.
Because now I saw representation. I saw people that looked like me, that came from situations like me,
right,
that didn't rap, that didn't play sports, that wasn't in entertainment.
Right.
They did it through education. They went to school. They got specialized skills. And I saw this now. I was now looking at people that looked like me. And so the number one thing it did for me was now take away all the excuses. I didn't have any more excuses on why I couldn't be successful in America because now I had a picture of it. I had a picture of it. And so I devoured this book, and now I'm looking for, he recommends other books. And then I saw that he wrote other books. He wrote another book called Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. It was a book off of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So now I start reading Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. I start reading Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And now my mind is just expanding. Now I'm starting to see all the possibilities. I start reading books like Acres of Diamonds. I start reading The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. And now I'm reading all of these books. And now this burning, like Napoleon Hill said, this burning desire, this thirst for knowledge is on me now. I start seeing myself differently. And now I just want, I just want to teach everybody this. That's when the teacher starts coming out. And so in the military, a unique thing. So I'm doing my education. I'm doing very well in the military. I'm getting promoted very fast. I become a non-commissioned officer within 2 years. And so now I'm leading soldiers. But now I have all this information. And now my heart is not to teach these soldiers so much about being a soldier, but to teach them about themselves. To teach them about their gift, to teach them about their potential. So we used to have this thing called Sergeant Time training on Thursdays. I'll never forget. At 7 a.m., we would go from 7 to 12. And it was supposed to be the time where you would learn all your soldiering stuff, how to take your weapon apart and all DNC and all that kind of stuff. But I went to my leaders and I said, listen, would you possibly just give me an hour to teach soldiers about this positive development, this positive thinking, this personal development stuff? And to my surprise, they said yes. They said, the last hour, we'll give it to you. But you got to come up. You got to come up with a course. You got to come up with a class. You got to be structured, all that kind of, you got to take it for real. I said, it'll be the realest thing I've ever done. And they allowed me to do this. And I started teaching soldiers. Other leaders started hearing about it. Hey, I heard you're teaching your soldiers this personal development stuff. Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, all this stuff. Les Brown, Lisa Nichols, Tony Robbins. Can you come teach my class? Can you come teach my soldiers? I said, I'll ask my leaders. I said, hey, Sergeant over here in this platoon asked me to come. They said, well, yeah, go ahead. Before I knew it, I was teaching the whole battalion. Wow. They were literally designating days, personal development days, where I was teaching like 500 soldiers at a time. And the bug got in me. I said, this is what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life. And so I knew my re-enlistment was coming up, but I knew, I said, I want to do this. And I didn't even know what this looked like because, to be honest with you, Chris, I didn't even know this world of training, public speaking. I didn't even know it existed. Now, I knew about Tony Robbins, Les Brown, but I just thought they had got hit with a magic wand. But I didn't know I didn't know you could just say, I want to be a professional speaker.
Absolutely.
I want to be a trainer. I'm going to go train people. I didn't even know you get paid to do this. I didn't even know if Les and all of them was getting paid. I just that's what I want to do. And so this is what I tell. I tell my wife this. I tell my leaders this. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. They're like, what are you about to mess up your life? And they meant well.
You were enlisted.
I was enlisted
in the Army,
and I was coming up.
This bug,
and this bug comes up. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. But everybody thought I was crazy. Everybody, there's like, because they had no reference point for it. I'm like, I want to do what
came out of nowhere.
I want to do it like Les Brown is doing, and they're like, why would you give up a guaranteed paycheck?
Because you're bigger than that.
What? Right? And let me tell you what I did. I'm so glad you said that. So at this time, I was in for 5 years. I said, okay, let's look at this. I sat down and I took out a piece of paper. I said, I could do 15 more years and I could retire in the military. So I said, okay, if I maxed out my rank in the military, this is how much I would get. And I did the math. I said, if I retired, I would retire at 40, and then they would give me half of whatever my retirement was. If I live till I'm 80, that's 40 more years. So 15 years to get to 40, and then 40 more years into retirement. That was 55 years. I added up what it would be. I added up what I would get in retirement. It all came up to the rest of my salary and what I would get in retirement. It came out to $2.7 million. $2.7 million. I said to myself, Will, do you think you can earn $2.7 million in less than 55 years? That was going to be the measuring stick. That's how I would have known if I made the right decision.
Love that. Yes.
If you can earn, and so for me, 55 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
It's a long time.
5 decades.
I
plus.
said, if I take 10 years to figure this business thing out, whatever it is,
you still got 40 to make the money.
I'm still ahead of the game.
Absolutely.
My benchmark was 55 years.
Yes, right.
I'm ahead of the game.
Absolutely.
I said, I believe I can do that. And so I talked to my recruiter. I talked to my re-enlistment guy. I said, I'm done. I'm not going to re-enlist. He thought I was crazy. Everybody thought I was crazy. So our majors calling me, everybody, all the higher ups. Let me talk to this young man. Hey, young man, you about to mess up your life. Look, man, you're in the military. You're a non-commissioned officer. You're fast tracking. You're going to be one of the leaders, one of the great leaders in the military. And here was the thing. I loved the military, loved being in the military, but my heart was gone.
I get that.
My heart was gone.
I get it.
I could not honestly wake up every morning and give those soldiers the type of leader that they deserved because my heart wasn't in it anymore. Right. And that's a dangerous place to be. And you don't want to be in the military. Yeah. We used to have this thing in the military. It says, stay alert, stay alive. Stay alert, stay alive. Always be paying attention. With my heart not in it, it was dangerous.
But that's with anything, though.
That's
Dr.
with anything.
Will. You know, that could be.
You could be a doctor. You could be a lawyer.
You could be a kid who's in 8th
grade.
Right, or a teacher, or I relate to that. When your time, for me, it felt like my time was up.
It was up.
I mean, I felt it like literally my time was up. It was so up for me that I visibly looked that way, and people were asking me, Crystal, what's going on? And I knew it was time for me to leave corporate.
It was written all over your face.
It was. I could not fake it no more. And my heart wasn't in it, and it was time. So I know exactly what you mean. So now the military gave you a place to practice, and a place to nurture the gift. And I always honor those places because we have those places in our lives that allows us to nurture the gift. And it's usually not the lane you're going to play in. It's just, again, practicing the gift, building your confidence, honing your skill, and honoring the gift, like falling in love with it.
You know, and that's why I'm so careful. Like I tell people all the time, I love the military. I have no negative word to say about the military. And I found a way to respectfully say that our time together was just completed. We did what we needed to do. The military gave me structure. It gave me identity. It gave me purpose. It helped me with vision. It helped me travel around the world. It helped me connect with different types of people. It did so much for me. Some of the best things that ever happened. I met my wife in the military. Friends that I have till today, we're still friends, all met in the military. I have nothing. It was just that assignment, that time came to completion. And to your point, honoring it, right? Honoring that phase, understanding that was my training ground. Even as I'm talking about it now, I'm just getting fond memories of those sergeant time trainings every Thursday. And so I eventually get out the military, and I stay over in, man, this show, I tell you, crystal clear moments. Before I got out, I tell my wife, I said, I want to take a trip to New York. Majority of my family is from New York. It was just my grandmother that moved out to California, and so that's how I ended up living there. But the majority of my family is in New York. I said, I want to go visit my family in New York before I get out the military. I go visit my Aunt Pearl, and while I'm on this visit with my Aunt Pearl, I'll never forget, I'm riding down the street in her Chrysler New Yorker. I'm looking out the window, and I hear this still small voice say to me, "You're not leaving." Not leaving, not leaving. What do you mean not leaving? And I thought the voice was talking about the military, like I'm not leaving the military. And so my practice, whenever I need understanding or guidance, I go and pray and I ask God, I say, God, what was that about? And while we're on this trip, God tells me, no, you're not leaving Germany. Not leaving Germany. That doesn't even make sense. What are you talking about, not leaving Germany? I'm leaving the military. If I'm leaving the military, I got to go back home. They're going to send me back home. Yeah. I'm going back home. Yeah. You're not leaving. I said, okay. I'm going to go tell my wife. She's going to throw a hissy fit.
Yes.
God, you're not the author of confusion. So once she throws a hissy fit, I know.
Right. Were you kind of secretly like hoping that that'd be your
I knew this was gonna be the
confirmation, right?
This is gonna be the out. As soon as I go to my wife, my wife is from California as well.
This is not it.
This is not it. She's from California. We had already said we're going back to California. We already told our family we're coming back to.
You were ready to go back to California.
I'm ready to go back to California. As soon as I tell my wife, she looks at me and she says, "If that's what you believe God is saying." I was already ready to fight, Crystal. I'm ready to have my dukes up. I'm ready to fight.
Right.
I'm like, that's not what you're supposed to say.
Yeah, you know, the shift has arrived.
And this was one of the most amazing journeys in our life. I go back to my leaders and I say, I want to stay in Germany. And they're like, I don't think you can do that. You gotta we gotta put you back where we got you. That's what the Army does. Wherever we get you from, that's where we send you back.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
We send you back on your orders. And I said, there has to be a way. So I started going to do some research. Lo and behold, they do have this thing called what they call a European out. We didn't even know it existed. It's a European out where you get to stay in, the country where you are. Had these stipulations, you had to, have somewhere to live. You had to have a job, had to have a certain amount of money in the bank. So I'm like, okay, tell my wife, this is what we're doing. I tell my leaders. They're like, man, we don't know what that is, but if you can figure it out, go. So I have to get all these signatures, got to get all this stuff done. One by one, it just starts happening just miraculously, right? Just all the doors, right? Just start happening and just start opening up for us to stay there. We end up finding our house. We end up getting the money in the bank, all this type of stuff. And so long story short, I get to stay in Germany. About a year later, it was revealed to me why we were staying in Germany, because in that year, that's when I had the opportunity to become a pastor. And so we become a pastor of this church.
In Germany?
In Germany.
Okay.
And so we become a pastor. We're pastoring this church. It's an amazing experience. We grow the church. We end up pastoring 3 churches simultaneously, and so I'm doing what I love to do, teach. Right? I have these 3 congregations, and I'm infusing business and personal development in the Bible, and so we're just having an amazing time. And then my 8th year, the number of new beginnings. Here's my ultimate crystal clear moment. I'm in the bathroom one morning, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I know who I'm looking at. It's me, but I don't know who that individual is. Up until this time, I had been and done what everybody else said I should do. You're going to be a good this. You're going to be a good that, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
I'm looking in the mirror, but I don't know who I am. To the point of I don't even know what music I really like, what food I really like, what things in life I really like. I didn't know if I liked rap music because I really like rap music, or did I like rap music because I grew up in Compton, California, and I used to see Dr. Dre and Eazy-E and Ice Cube and Snoop in my neighborhood. Maybe I like opera, maybe I like country, but I didn't know because I had never been exposed to it.
Exposure.
Did I really like chicken, or did I just like chicken because that's what Grandma cooked every every
Yeah,
Sunday.
every Sunday,
Right?
right,
That
yeah,
maybe I like escargot.
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I
yeah.
like raccoon. I don't know
Yeah.
because I had never been exposed to any of it. I had lived my life at this point for 35 years in this box. And that day, I decided I was going, and I didn't call it this at the time, but after the process, this is the name I gave it. I said, I'm going to go on a clarity journey. I'm going to go on a clarity journey
Find yourself.
to find myself.
Find myself, yeah.
Once again, everybody thinks I'm crazy. They think, man, you're just overwhelmed. You got three churches.
So at this point, are they like kind of used to a little craziness, or
No,
it's still like, we want you to be the way you were?
we want you to be the way you were
Because that was comfortable.
that's comfortable for
Yes,
them.
For them.
Because
right?
in relationships, Crystal, to be in a relationship, the root is relate. And people feel comfortable where they met you.
Yep.
Because
Make
that's
it
where you relate.
relatable.
That's
Absolutely.
where we relate.
Absolutely.
You know, your high school friends, when you get
Yep.
get with them, most of them want to talk about, you remember back in Miss Jenkins' class?
Yeah, back
You
in the
remember
day.
back in the day.
Yeah, and you're
right?
like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not there anymore.
I'm not there
It was-
anymore.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
And so imagine I have three churches, they're flourishing, things are going great, and I announce to everybody that I'm stepping down, I'm handing over the and everybody's, well, what's next? And I say, I'm just going to go find, what are you talking about? You're Pastor Will, you're Dr. Will, what are you talking about? So once again, just like in the military, my bishop, everybody's, hey, just take a couple of months off. Maybe you're burnt out, maybe you're tired. So it's not that. Because once again, I love what I was doing. I love pastoring. I love meeting people. I love teaching people.
But your heart.
But here's the word I use. I wasn't fulfilled. I was successful on all accounts. Got the Range Rover, got the Mercedes, got the big house, got everything you would want, right?
Fulfillment, I think is something that people don't understand how powerful it is.
It's powerful because it was so powerful that
Yeah.
I said, okay, we're going to give up the churches and we're going to move to Arizona. Mind you, we had never been to Arizona. I didn't know nobody in Arizona.
Yeah.
I just felt that Arizona was going to be our land of milk and honey. That's just the word that came to me. If you go to Arizona, like he told Abraham, go and I will show you.
But I always have this thing with the desert. It's such a healing space. And that's where Jesus lived. He lived in a desert. And it's something about life in the desert.
Yeah.
It can appear to not have life,
But
is fruitful
yeah.
if you're supposed to be there.
You know, when I think about when you say fruitful and when I think about the desert, it's weird because when you think about the desert, you would think dry. But when I say desert, I see rivers of living water. Like that's literally what I see. Land flowing with milk and honey. That's you say desert, and I understand what a desert's supposed to be.
Yes.
But to your point, if you're in the right place and if you're on assignment,
Right?
and you're in alignment,
flow.
It's flow.
It's flowing. I get it.
It's flowing.
I get it, Dr. Will. It's the flow.
It's
Yeah.
flowing.
Yeah.
So we move here, don't know anybody,
yeah.
don't have any connections. I just believe that this is the land for us, the land of milk and honey. And we've been here now for 14 years. And if I could have wrote the story, I could not have written it any better. I would have cheated myself. I would have cheated myself because I wouldn't have believed that all that has happened for me and my family, I wouldn't have believed all of that could have happened in such a short period of time. But that's how I know that I was in the right place because just like the Bible says, he opens up doors that nobody else can open.
That's
right?
true. Yes.
And when I started seeing the favor, and that's all I can attribute it to, that has been on my life and that has allowed me to do what I do at the level that I do it. That crystal clear moment when I said in the bathroom, I was going to go figure out, and you said this word earlier, what it meant to live from my core. What it meant to live from my core. And when I found out what it meant to live from my core, what we talked about earlier will all make sense. God gave me the analogy of the apple. And he says, when you live from your core, you're just like that apple. You can produce unlimitedly. And so if you can picture an apple, from an apple, you can get apple juice, you get apple sauce, you can get apple pie, you can get candied apple, you can get apple fritter. See, when you living from your core, you can just flow. And so when people say, how do you write so many books? I'm just flowing from my core. Now, if you ask me to make a lemon meringue pie, I can't do that because that's not mine.
Right.
If you ask me to make a orange jubilee, that's not what I do. But if you ask me to make apple pie, apple sauce, apple juice, apple fritter, apple candied apple, I'm your guy. And so when I tapped into living from my core, and core is an acronym that stands for clarity, opportunities, relationships, and experiences.
I love that.
When
Clarity,
I get
opportunities,
relationships,
and experiences.
When I got clear on who I was and what I was put on this planet to do, that's when everything took off. This is why I was, like Jesus said, for this purpose and this cause was I born.
Yes.
I knew.
Yeah.
I knew. Like, this is what I was supposed to be doing. So now, once I got clear, I could now look for opportunities around my clarity.
Around your gift, around your clarity. Right. Absolutely.
Then, what relationships do I need to have? Who are the most important relationships to me? My family. Who are the most important business relationships? All right. Who are the leverage relationships? And then experience. For the 80, 90, 100 years that you have on this planet, how do you want to experience it?
Right. Yes.
215 countries. How many of them do you want to see? Millions of beaches. How many of them do you want to go see? Hundreds of thousands of mountains. How many of them do you want to climb? Once you're living from your core, life gets simplified. I was talking to my wife about this the other night. How slow life is in a good way when you're living from your core, because you're not chasing the Joneses.
Right.
I'm not.
It's peaceful.
I'm not moved by anyone.
Right.
I can celebrate everyone. I can cheerlead for everyone.
Yes,
I'm not jealous of no one.
Right.
I'm not envious of no one, because I'm crystal clear. One of my best friends can call me right now. Man, I just bought a Porsche Lamborghini.
I'm happy. Man,
I'm happy
good
for
you.
you.
Yeah.
Man,
I can't wait to see it.
Man, I can't. Man,
absolutely.
can I ride with you?
Can I ride with you?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can you come pick me up?
Absolutely. Yes. Enough pie for everybody.
It's enough. And when
it's enough pie
when
for
you
everybody.
realize, when you get clear,
when you really get that.
We're one of one, right? There's only one crystal black whale. We're
Absolutely.
one of one.
Absolutely.
And when you get clear around that, there may be people who do things similar to me. There may be people who talk
only
about
one
this,
of you.
But there's when you start living from that uniqueness, it's not being conceited. It's not being arrogant. It's a fulfillment and a self-assurance that I know who I am. I know why I'm here. I know why I belong. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I am so at peace, and it's that peace that passeth all understanding. And I was sharing this with my wife the other day, and I said, man, we just had a beautiful grandbaby, and thank you. And so all I try to do is now try to figure out ways to go sneak and see her, and life is just at and I know, Crystal, for the work that we do, people kind of talk to us and they, those are those pie in the sky. And
yes,
we
get that. We get this.
You're okay. You're not really living in a real world.
We're the most realistic.
But we're the most realistic.
We're the most realistic.
Because when you realize. When I tell people, I say, when you stop caring, right? When you stop caring, I say, you care too much. And they're like, what do you mean? I say, you care about what other people think. You care about what other people are doing. When you stop caring about stuff that doesn't impact you, you have just peace. And so when people, well, what do you think about that? I don't think anything about it.
Right.
I haven't had one thought about, you got to have something on it. I have nothing on it. It has nothing to do with me. And then if it does have something to do with me and it's out of I do what the Bible said, pray.
Pray on it and wait for my answer and my instruction for my next assignment.
That's it. That's that. Wait a minute, did you hear about them talk? Well, you guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to pray for them because that's what the Bible tells me to do. Pray for them that despitefully use you. Well, what do you think about the Republicans and Democrats? I'm going to do what the Bible say. Pray for those that are in leadership so we can have a quiet and peaceable life.
Don't we need to do that?
And that's what we need to do.
Right, absolutely.
If my people who call by his name will humble themselves and pray.
Right.
And so when people think, once again, oh, man, see, you're not realistic, man. You're not. There's nothing more powerful that I can do than what I just said I was about to do.
Right.
Is pray. There's nothing more I can, there's nothing more powerful than that. And when you say things like that and you mix the Bible and you mix positivity, people really think you're loopy.
They do.
They just think you're out here in, you know, in Disneyland World and, you know, Neverland.
Right.
But I'm telling you, if you can grab onto what it means to live from your core, to get really clear on who you are. See, if you ask me today, Will, do you like camping? I can honestly tell you, no, camping's not for me. Why? Why can you say? Because I've been camping.
And I don't like it.
And I don't like
I like
it.
resorts. No.
I like resorts.
Right.
Will, do you like water sports? I actually do. Now, they told me growing up, black people don't get in the water. See, that's what they had told me.
Yeah.
So that was my frame of thinking. But then I got out there
Love
on the
water,
wave, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Love the water. So much so, this is how, once again, how powerful this is. The mindset. I grew up in Compton, California. Compton is 10 minutes away from Long Beach.
Oh, yeah.
Now watch this. This is how powerful, and this is why everybody listening to us, you got to be so careful about how you intake information. We live 10 minutes from Long Beach, but we didn't call it Long Beach. We called it the LBC. And words are powerful. Life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Yes, it is.
So instead of saying Long Beach, this is the beach, it's the beach, we said it's the LBC. And what we told ourselves is, we don't go to the LBC because we're Compton and they're the LBC.
Yeah, disconnect.
It was a disconnect.
Yeah.
And I love.
That's dangerous. That's very dangerous.
I love the water, right? We more than likely could have bought beachfront property.
Oh, yeah.
But because we kept telling ourselves, that's LBC, that's Long Beach, that's LBC, that's LBC. Now I go back to Long Beach. Those same houses, that same beachfront property that 30 years ago was $150,000, it's now all $1 million plus. And because of our mindset, it's not Long Beach, it's LBC. We changed the whole meaning of that place. And so we interacted totally different with it. And that's what we do now when we, you know, I tell people it's like when you go to the doctor, if they misdiagnose you, then you get the wrong medicine. And I think that's what we're having right now in the world, a misdiagnosis.
And some people are taking the wrong medicine.
And they're taking the wrong medicine. They're taking hate.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
They're taking racism.
And it goes back against that mindset.
It's mindset.
And experience and living from your core. When you unleash your purpose, like when you really land it, I felt like that's when I was truly Crystal.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there she is. But I also could see where I was building I was going that direction where she was uncovering.
Your training. It was all training.
All the training. And then one day you just, okay, this is who I am. And you live from your core.
And the butterfly.
Right.
And you start looking, and this is what I tell people, you start looking at your whole entire life and you start understanding that, oh, I was in training.
Yes.
But
everything is school.
Everything
right?
is school. And so when I look at what I do today and the amount of people that we're blessed to impact today, I could look all the way back to all the experiences I've been through, and I understand. And now I say, oh, okay, that experience wasn't even for me. It was for the people I was to serve.
Right.
And so the Bible says it this about Jesus. It says, by his stripes, you're healed.
You're healed.
His stripes didn't do anything for him. It did everything for us.
Yeah.
And I started understanding that every experience was a stripe, not for Will, but for other people.
Yeah.
So when anybody comes up to me and they say, Doctor, well, I hear you talking that positive stuff. I hear you talk, but you don't understand. I'm homeless. Oh, I've been homeless. So I definitely understand. I can talk to you. When they come to me and say, Dr. Will, you're not going to understand. I didn't grow up with my father. Oh, I didn't grow up with my father either. I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, Dr. Will, you're not going to understand. I don't have the strongest relationship with my mother or my siblings or my or my family. I get that. Oh, Dr. Will, you don't understand. I was molested. Or I was molested. And so now I realize, oh, that was all training. So when anybody comes up to me, there's been, I can't even remember offhand right now, one person that's ever come up to me that has told me something that they're going through that, Dr. Will, you don't understand. Me and my wife, we're trying to have a baby. We just had a miscarriage. Me and my wife had 3 of them. I know exactly how you feel. I know how you feel as a man, not knowing what to say to your wife, not knowing how to feel about a baby that you've never seen, that you've never had an attachment to, but your wife has an attachment because the baby's on the inside of her. Now that you had a miscarriage, you don't know what to say to her. You don't know. I know exactly what you're going through. And so when we start talking about relating and relationship, and now you begin to say, oh, okay, I see why God allows me to interact with the number of people that I get to interact. So if you haven't been through nothing, then you're not going to be able to relate to nobody.
Right. Yeah, that's, what I'm going to tell you is we've got to do this again, because it's pieces of what you're saying that I really want to dive into, and I don't think I've ever asked a guest to come back again. Dr. Will, you got to come back. We got to do a part 2.
It goes by so fast.
I really want you to dig into, this mindset piece and, how we, can thrive in this world and use our experiences to build on, and how we're designed to prosper.
We are.
And we're designed to be happy and thrive. We're supposed to be. It's our destiny. It's what God has for us. And people like us, who are blessed to tap into our purpose and live it, blessed to actually, our job, our work is what we do, which I know you don't feel the way I feel. I don't feel like every day I get up excited about what I do. I see that in you, and I would love to dig into that, because I think that part, people hear it, and they use all these words, authenticity and all that, but they need examples of how we walk it out. You know,
and I know we're closing. Once again, the Bible says it like this. He says, if you're not like a little child, you won't see the kingdom. And so what I realized is I had to get back to being a child. And when you think about a child, what are they? They're curious. They're optimistic.
Asking questions.
They're asking questions. They believe anything, right? And when you look at it, the Bible says, ask and you shall receive. We get taught not to ask. Don't ask for nothing. We're getting ready to go over to Auntie's house. Don't ask for nothing. Hey, we go in this store. Don't ask for nothing. Don't touch nothing. Don't ask for nothing, right? And so now all these principles that would make us successful, they've been shut off. Belief, right?
Absolutely.
All things are possible to him that believe.
We've got to definitely dig into that, because I understand that.
You got to tap back into it, right?
Yes,
and when I started tapping back into it, my son helped me out one day. He was 2 or 3 years old, and we had just pulled up to our new house. Now, he didn't know it was our new house. We're surprising him. He hops out the car. He looks at this house, doesn't know it's our house, but he looks at it. At 3 years old, he says, oh, this is how I should be living. This is what he says at 3. This is what he says at 3. He reminded me that day. He reminded me that day. If we're not squashed and that belief is not killed off, we could live an amazing life.
Yes, we got to get to that. Because I understand all of those, everything that we've taught really is holding us back. And it's, we definitely want to come back. I want to play in that one. That's so heavy and thick. So definitely. So we're going to definitely come back with Dr. Will, because we have a lot to uncover. Before we go, the last thing I have is I'm asking everyone, do you have a word for the year?
Oh, that is amazing.
Do you have a word for the year? Like something that you're focusing on?
Wow, that is amazing. The word is execution.
Okay, love that.
Execution.
Getting it done.
Getting it done. And it's interesting because I've been sharing this with my wife and telling her this. And I don't just have this word for the year. So I just switched over to this word. The word I had before was consistency.
That's my word now.
Consistency.
Consistency, yes.
And so when I look at everything that's happened in my life, I blame it on consistency. Now, when I look at the next level that I want to go to, it's going to be intentional execution.
Intentional, like that. Good.
Execution for me is
Love
my
it.
word.
Execution, like that. Thank you so much. So we will definitely have a part 2 that we're going to roll out. Thank you so much. Just quickly, give us some of how people are going to reach out to you.
Real simple. Just go to any social media platform at Dr. Will Speaks. That's my social media platform. That's my website, drwillspeaks.com.
You bet. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.